I want to talk to you today about some things that are going on with property management. So, if you have a rental property, or maybe you're thinking of renting a property out and you're not sure the dynamics in this ever-changing market, I want to help you give with a little bit more information today on how it might work for you, even if it seems a little bit off. This is your host, Ron Wysokarski, for the Black Hole of Real Estate. And it's true, a lot of people are ready to move. And rather than just selling their homes, they want to do a wealth building situation. And with so many people having interest rates in the twos, threes, and fours, it can make sense for their business portfolio to actually keep their home and then purchase the next one without selling their home, just renting it out. And here's what it might look like for you. Let's just suppose that you have a property that you've had for quite some time, and maybe the mortgage is, I don't know, 2,000, 2,200 bucks a month, 2,400 bucks a month, something like that. And if you are predisposed to being able to rent it on your own and collect the rent and do all the work, then you're probably going to be in pretty good shape. But even if you hire a property manager and let's say they get a percent every month, 10% or whatever that might be, your 2,500 could turn into 2,250, or your 2,200 could turn into about 2,000, which is still pretty good money. But if today's rents are just a little bit off from what they were a year ago, or maybe you've got a renewal situation where maybe the tenant's not going to stay or debating about moving on, I want to go over the financial scenarios and what might make sense, even if it doesn't initially make sense. And I hope that's making sense. I believe that everybody wants positive cash flow on their rental, and they feel like they're losing money if they don't get every dime they got coming to them. So making money or losing money for most people means, can I cover the monthly mortgage payment for those that have financing in place? So again, if the mortgage on it is 2,400 bucks and your net after getting the rent in and maybe paying your property manager, well, if it's at 2,400, you're neutral, right? And if the taxes and insurance are escrow, then you're just breaking even. You're like, well, how does that make sense and why would that be good for me? Well, let's just suppose for a minute if we looked at an amortization table and we said, okay, you broke even on the rent. That's fair. But a portion of that 2,400 bucks a month, some will go to escrow for taxes and insurance, but another chunk is actually going to go towards the principal balance. So what if you were paying 500 bucks a month off on the principal balance? Well, over the course of a year, that's 6 grand. So there is some locked in profit with that. You just can't touch it just yet. When you sell it, that's when you'll see it. So in some ways, it works kind of like a 401k. It's forced savings. You're paying down a debt. You're building equity every month. So paying down the mortgage balance is a form of profit. When the property sells eventually down the road for more money, there will be an increase in the value most likely. So if the value went up, and let's just say went up a couple percent this year, and it could be 5 or 10,000. Now it's on paper, again, just like paying down the mortgage. But if the mortgage balance goes down, and let's just say 5 grand for the year, and the value of the home goes up 5 or 10 grand for the year, aren't we looking at 10 or $15,000 of unrealized gain that will come at the point of sale? Now, for many people, they also use on their tax returns depreciation, which defers taxes down the road because you're depreciating the asset. Now you'll have to recover this when you sell. And a CPA can answer that question. Let's not have Ron answer that question for you. But let's say if you are depreciating, that's going to be a tax write-off that can also save you money. So in my example, even though you're breaking even on the rent, you're not making a penny on the rent, but you're going to make it a neighborhood of $15,000 between paying down the mortgage and price appreciation, and then throw on some depreciation. You could be close to 20,000 in profit while you're breaking even. So it's a matter of perspective and certainly math for you. But the way that I would look at this opportunity is like, sure, would I like to make a couple hundred bucks a month? Of course, extra cash in the pocket. I wouldn't turn that down. But if there's $20,000 in gains at the point where I am right now, that might be a pretty good thing. And I think for most people, when they look at it that way, oh, well, maybe that's not so bad. Now, where do you feel the pinch? Let's suppose that your mortgage is a couple hundred bucks more than you're taking. And now you're not breaking even. I just played the same thing right back for you as far as what the potential looks like over the next year, but say, all right. So if you're going to make 15, $20,000 in the way that I just described, but you had to pay 200 bucks per month out of your checkbook in order to make the mortgage payment. Now it's 2,400 bucks. Well, is it 2,400 bucks loss, or is your profit of 15,000 to 20,000 for the year more like 12,000 to 17,500? See, the numbers are still really good. And if you're in a situation where it makes a lot more sense to keep the property and you don't have to sell it in order to buy, I would like a couple of properties appreciating in value over time with the mortgages going down, like we described. I think it could be a really big win for most people to begin the wealth building process of a real estate portfolio. There's a mouthful for you. Now, not everybody can purchase the next home without selling the one that they have, but you can take an equity line, and there might be room within there to take some money out of this property in a form of a home equity line for the down payment for the next property. That could also work. And I do believe that would give you some price parameters that would make sense when you go to get the mortgage on the next property. It would help you qualify on the next property. And by the way, that next property, every time you make a payment, that balance is going to go down. Is it likely that home will go up in value over the next year? Well, it's been proven that way year in and year out for many, many years. You might be onto something with that. So now we've got wealth building, we've got the opportunity to rent your property out, which I think for a lot of people is super strong, and it might just be the right thing for you. Now, if you're going to take on renting out the property on your own, what would I want you to know? Definitely probably want to background check, credit check the tenant applicants. So if you have a solid application and you have a way to get credit check and background check done, perfect. You can pay for that service with a number of places, online or otherwise. You can definitely do that. If you have a standard lease that you can fill out, or if you have an attorney that can fill out the lease for you, that would certainly be a way. Collect rent and a security deposit, tuck that aside, and have some vendors in place, probably the same ones you use at the house right now. If it's lawn care or plumbing or heating or electrical or roof, the same people you're using would probably be sufficient. And you might be able to rent it on your own. Now, I can't stop the proverbial Saturday night phone call at midnight because the toilet's overflowing. That's part of being a landlord, and repairs when they move out and damages while they're living there. Let's face it, in your home right now, you probably break things all by yourself, even though you're careful. Your tenant's going to break things too. It's just it comes with the territory, and if you're not predisposed to being comfortable with things breaking and repairs, you may not want to be a landlord. You may or may not want to hire a property manager for that matter. You may just want to sell it and then move on down the road. But if you're thinking that renting out a property is the right thing for you and you don't want to do it, property management companies are a really good solution for a lot of people that want to be hands off and just collect a check over the course of the year, one at a time for 12 months. It can really work out for you. And good news is, chances are rents will stabilize and maybe start to increase in the next year or two, be additional profits for you down the road. So if you're wondering, what happened to my rent? My tenant is thinking of moving out right now. I'm just barely breaking even. You may want to make a business decision because when a tenant moves out, they've got to come up with rent and security deposit for the next place, and they got to move and pay to move. Most people don't like to move, so that's really remarkable when somebody's like, when they want to move out, it could be because of lifestyle situations where things have changed, getting married, getting divorced, maybe there's a job transfer, maybe there's something with the schools, who knows? Blended family, they just need more space. Any of those things can happen. But if somebody's getting ready to move, they're going to incur expenses. I mean, for a lot of people, if the rent's 2,500 bucks, plus the security deposit, that's 5 grand plus moving, they're talking $8,000 to 10,000 to move. That's not necessarily recoverable very, very quickly. And then have to wait to get their security deposit back. If the only thing preventing them from staying is you want to raise the rent $52 a month and they just can't afford it or don't want to afford it, that could cost you at least a month's worth of rent. And even if you raise the rent, 50 bucks a month or 52 as I was kidding about, for an extra 600 bucks a year, you might lose 2,000 bucks in rent. The business decision of keeping somebody in there in a year such as this might be, hey, you know what? We're willing to renew another year at the same terms. A lot of people might say, okay. And if they remind themselves that moving and coming up with rent, security deposit, and moving costs might be cost prohibitive. It would really come down to the space they need, the location that they need, and there's a difference for that. I mean, they still could move, even though you made it financially attractive. Then the best thing you can do is be prepared, for the quickest possible turnover to a new tenant. I hope this helped you out just a little bit with, what's going on with the rental game, and am I losing money? Am I breaking even? I can make a case that even under some negative circumstances, you might be making money through the retirement of the mortgage debt, property value increase, and of course the write-off against your taxes. All right, this is your host, Ron Wysokarski for the Black Hole of Real Estate.